Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I am Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
And we, together, as a superhero team, would be known as Hear Us Out, or something similar, maybe, I guess.
Would would we be sound based heroes, or would we be like mind taking over?
I
And
think
would
I
we
think
be
we'd
like
be bad entertainment take powered. We'd be like, yeah, we've got all the opinions. Some of them are good, most of them are bad. And we'd be supervillains probably, actually. So before before
that
I
is true?
before I get us tapped into being YouTube villains, everybody, thank you for joining us. For those of you joining us live, hey, hey, hi, hello. For those of you in the future, we love you too. What's the future like? I hope the weather's good. We're going to be talking about sequels, folks, and not sequels that have existed, and not big franchises with that need another 10 sequels. We're going to talk about sequels that we think could and should be made. And we're not just taking this lightly. We're going to give you a bit of a treatment and say what we think the sequel would be. It's not just going to be a case of, they should really do a follow up for District 9, and that'd be great, and leave it at that. So we've picked a couple of films each. We should probably, Paul, get the big boogeymen out of the way first, the ones that most of the internet shout about.
Yeah,
So I will, I'll throw up. I've got District 9, Alita, and Master and Commander here, because these are
yeah.
films that are often asked for and people talk about should have a sequel. I'll be completely frank and honest. Well, you be frank, I'll be honest. Alita, I haven't watched it. It's not necessarily my wheelhouse. I know you have, but it has a huge following, and the people that follow it are like, it definitely needs a sequel.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can understand that. It was done by James Cameron. It was his big like graphic thing after, I guess, Avatar and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. It's based on an anime and manga, so I can see why it has a huge big fan base already there. So
Yeah, and look,
you
I
know,
don't. We're not going to spoil the ending of it by talking about it now, but I'm assuming the ending leaves it open for follow up. That's so. There's a couple of angles on why you would want a sequel. It's whether or not something ends on a cliffhanger, or whether or not it's a world that you think has more stories in it. With District
Mhm.
9, Master and Commander, it's maybe a little bit different. A District 9, I think people just kind of go. It wasn't necessarily a cliffhanger. It's just there's so much more there. There is a cliffhanger in some ways, but also you could tell 100 different stories out of it, depending on which direction you go. And quite literally,
yeah,
whether or not you follow the aliens or follow how the humans get on, in a socio-political kind of way. So those are the ones that people are shouting about. We're not picking those. I wanted to get them out there so that we don't get all the hate, Paul.
which is interesting because yeah, my honorable mention. I didn't know that Master and Commander was as big
It,
of a pick. It's in my honorable mentions just because yeah, I really like that show movie. I can definitely understand where it's coming from. It's 3 hours long,
mm,
so it's a lot of it might be a problem.
I like that movie too, and I don't know who it was that pointed out that it had one of the great one-liners of all time, where he basically delivers the lesser of two weevils line, where there's two little ball weevils.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't expect a bit of pun-based humor in the middle of the ocean in that type of film. It worked quite well, and delivered well
yeah.
too.
And there's such a series of books and stories that go on, so it's got plenty of source material to be able to work on. Because that's actually Master and Commander is actually based on two books.
There you
So
go.
the
I
first and
didn't
the
know that.
second.
So, folks, I can see people filling in the live chat and in the comments. If you are one of those amazing future people, please like, subscribe, share, and all that stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. Comment lots, but comment with what you think deserves a sequel, and definitely if you say something, say why. So, Paul, we rock paper scissored before going on air to see who'd
Yeah,
get to go first, because we've tried doing it on air, and it's essentially a couple of minutes of YouTube with both of us shaking our fists at a screen. Feels a bit weird.
yeah, which could definitely be taken as a GIF and sampled away somewhere. So
Very fair point. I'm really sorry I just reenacted it. I want to say hi to the chat because I see there's already a note in there from Irish Bauer. Welcome back. Thank you for your continued support. One of the most excellent commenters in all of YouTube, and I mean that seriously. All other channels can go and jump because we got you. Thank you. Um,
uh, yeah, it's Master and Commander. Yeah,
so many great books in the series. Yeah, there you go. Yourself and Paul, like you're both of our minds in some of your comments. So Or else we're secretly reading them and then saying them. You never know. Deadpool 3 is all I really want. You know what, Ethan? I think you're probably going to get it. So that's... Things like that didn't quite make our list, obviously, because it's very likely there'll be more Deadpool made at some point. Because money. And also because Ryan Reynolds is amazing.
Money.
And Deadpool was great. And Deadpool 2 was pretty good too.
Okay. I'd like to see more Juggernaut.
Yeah. In a weird way, so would I. I'd like to see more Cable. But we'll not get into that right now. That's a whole other episode. Now, my first pick will be controversial. Because the film I picked, folks, how should I put this, is beloved, and people will go, don't do a sequel. Sequels are cash-ins. All I'm asking for you, title of the channel, hear me out. The only reason I think a sequel should be done is if you can really nail it and really get it right. And that is Groundhog Day. Now, I've splashed up a load of pictures for Groundhog Day right now because I'm going to give you a quick synopsis for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, which is like one of you out there. But also just a little trip down memory lane. Groundhog Day is a movie about Bill Murray going to Punxsutawney on Groundhog Day. A little Punxsutawney film. Phil, they hold him out. If he sees his shadow, it's going to be 12 more weeks of winter or whatever it is. But essentially, it is the great, and I'm going to call it a sci-fi movie, the great sci-fi movie where Bill Murray gets stuck in a time loop. So he relives the same day over and over again. And during his growing as a person, he realizes that, he's getting more out of doing good things for people, and actually falls in love with Andie MacDowell. And it's a very, very sweet movie. I love it. I think it's one of the greatest films of all time. Not everybody agrees with me on that. I don't want a sequel just because of that. What I want a sequel because I think here's how you do it. Dun dun dun. Now I've got to prepare my imagery a little bit here. Stick with me, folks. Groundhog Day 2. It starts off quite literally back in Groundhog Day, actually, where Bill Murray goes back with Andie MacDowell on an anniversary on Groundhog Day. So they go back. It's made clear to us that they've been together for years. They are in love, but they've hit hard times. There's not as much love there as there once was. And this trip back to Punxsutawney might be their last together, if you know what I mean. But what happens next? Well, Ryan Reynolds is the guy I'm casting. I did play with the idea of having Kristen Wiig and a few others, but you'll see why I picked Ryan Reynolds eventually. While they're in the diner, good old Bill and Andy, they're hanging out in the diner, having a chat, reminiscing about old times, saying hello to everybody in the town, because Bill Murray knows everybody in the town so well. He doesn't know Ryan Reynolds, but obviously it's been years, so there are younger people running around. But Ryan Reynolds looks particularly sad. And Bill notices this. Ryan Reynolds acts a little bit weird, eats a stack of pancakes like 10 foot high or something similarly ridiculous, and then runs out into the street, hops in his car, and starts driving around this square, shouting crazy stuff out the window, at which point, crowd gathers outside the diner. Bill Murray looks at him, everybody's like, what's he at? And Bill Murray's starting to count it down in his head. Hang on, some of the things he's shouting are kind of familiar. I can't do this day again. Oh no, no way. And just as good old Ryan Reynolds is about to pile the car into a pole, Bill Murray looks over and shouts, I've lived this day too, or it's happened to me. And just before Ryan Reynolds hits the pole, he sees Bill Murray say that. And then camera follows Ryan Reynolds for the rest of the movie. So then you have your restart where Ryan wakes up on that day. And you're actually living the Groundhog Day for Ryan Reynolds now. And he decides to go and meet Bill Murray and ask Bill Murray a few questions. Obviously, he's got to go through the process of explaining to Bill Murray that it's happening to him. Bill's going to believe him pretty quickly. It's not going to be an easy one to deal with. It's simply because, how do you get out of Groundhog Day? As far as Bill Murray was concerned, was it that he became a better person? Was it that he lived the perfect day? Was it just that you have to go through 50 years of living the same day again? Was it the perfect day in falling in love with Andie MacDowell? Was it the day that he let her fall in love with him naturally rather than coercively? Who knows? So Your whole second act is filled with fun stuff of Ryan Reynolds going, you fell in love with somebody? That's it. I'm going to go out with everybody in this town until I manage to find my true love. So you've got a great montage there of him finding a way to seduce every single person in that town, no matter what gender, what age. Well, obviously he's not going to be into kids. That came out wrong. But you've got a lot of comedy fun there, and you've got Bill trying to coach him, and days where he's with Bill, days where he's not. But kind of comedy turns to tragedy, as it always does in these things, and Ryan Reynolds runs out of patience. He gets frustrated. He's become best friends with Bill Murray at this stage because he's spent so many years of the loop talking to him as his kind of mentor, and he just decides, to hell with it. You know what? Today I'm not trying anything. I'm just going to hang out with Bill. I'm going to tell him what's happening and tell him I just want a day off. I don't want to get drunk. So they head off, do a few piano lessons, do whatever it might be. Actually, I think I might have missed my chance to change scenes there. So there you go. Do some of the activities. And Ryan says, right, I'm going to hang out with you until the reset, which his reset happens at 12 every night. Unlike Bill, he has a time of day. It's actually kicking over. Problem is, this is the first day he's ever spent all day with Bill, and at 11:59, Bill dies. And there's nothing Ryan can do about it in the minute he has left. Pretty dark. I think, folks, you'll find that I make everything pretty dark one way or another. But there is a redeeming thing here, because Ryan Reynolds is then distraught and spends the next however long trying to work out how to save Bill, then realizes he can't. And towards the end of the movie, he goes to Bill and explains, here's what's happening to me, but here's what's going to happen to you. And Bill is like, you shouldn't have told me that, yada, 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 yada. I just want to live my life. It's not really going to happen. So he realizes he can't tell Bill, and all he wants to do then is give his friend Bill the best day ever. So he spends his entire next day making it the perfect day for Bill and Andy, and realizes that the most important thing for Bill would be to have his last day be back being happy and in love with the woman that he fell in love with in the first place, that released him from the purgatory of Groundhog. Are you crying yet?
No, I'm just. There's so much here.
I know. I'm going long, but this is stopping now because we're towards the end. So at that point, how does it end? Essentially, he's heading off to bed with Andy McDowell after having the best day ever. He's thanking Ryan Reynolds. Thanks for giving me the best day ever. I'm back in love. And it's like 5 minutes to midnight at this point. And Ryan's like, I have to tell him because he thinks this is the best day ever. He's like, just go in and whatever you do, hug Andy McDowell till 11:58, but then just go to the bathroom or something. You don't want her to see you die. You're going to die at a minute too. And Bill's like, that's okay. I don't mind. Today's the day. I'm ready to die. It was the best day of my life. I'm so happy to be back with the woman I love. I lived an entire lifetime with her once in this town before. You tell me that I've lived a whole entire lifetimes with you here again. I'm the luckiest guy alive. Ryan Reynolds resets. Ryan Reynolds gets up the next day all sad, heads off to go and see Bill in the diner. Bill's not in the diner. End of movie. That's how he got out of the loop. So there you go. That's the entire movie, folks. Was that too much in the end?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, plenty in chatter, someone needs to write the script. And
I went a wee bit too hard into that one, but you know what? Once I started, I thought, can you imagine a moment where Ryan Reynolds is waving bye to Bill Murray for the last time after the two of them being friends?
It's pretty good.
It's not bad.
That's a pretty good film.
I'm loving the commentary though, because the first one that my eye caught was, does Ryan get to punch Ned? Ned Ryerson.
Yeah.
Ned Ryerson has a whole subplot in this. Ned Ryerson gets his own whole subplot. I'm not telling you what that is in case Hollywood do tap me for the movie. But Brew, yes, Ned Ryerson is still kicking. Groundhog Day is a classic. Watch it every year. I don't think they can do it without Harold Ramis. I know, and I'm certainly no Harold Ramis. Someone needs to actually write the script. There you go. So that was my opening gambit. Paul, would it work for you? Would you want to see that? Would it be a worthy Groundhog Day successor?
It's a pretty dark one. But the whole thing is you could definitely fill it in with a lot of comedy kind of moments and stuff like that. That cushion the moments. So like, yeah, it would be really good. Like, I think that sounds like a really, really good sequel to Groundhog Day because it closes the other loop with Bill Murray's character. So
Yep.
you know, though you wouldn't ever be able to make a sequel out of that one. You couldn't
And
make Groundhog 3 or something like
and
that.
that's the point, because there should
You
never
know,
be a Groundhog Day 3 if you were. Don't get me wrong. This is a sequel that I need for the sake of this YouTube channel. I really hope nobody tries a sequel to Groundhog Day simply because I don't trust them. I don't even trust myself when I came up with that idea.
yeah,
So I'm
that's
I'm dodging on the edge of the rules that we set for this. I'd like it. I think we could do with a sequel only if it's made absolutely perfectly and is made the best film of all time. So no pressure.
that's gonna be pretty difficult. But no, the plot is really, really good. Um,
Well,
I don't like that I have to follow that.
let us know in the comments if you'd back Groundhog Day, and I'll switch over, Paul, to your first pick, which, if you would like to, I'm pulling up your first poster, the original.
So yeah, so my choice is Leon the Professional. I think it's a good film that we could definitely do a sequel with. The sequel being Matilda, which is following up essentially Matilda's story. So yeah, I have if you want a job done right, hire a professional, and then I made up the film posters, and
Very
the next
good, by
one
the
is
way.
essentially trained by a professional kind of thing. Yeah, I think Leon, like, I think Matilda could be a really good follow up story to Leon. You can follow her in her kind of years becoming more and more of a professional. How kind of lonely she may be doing the job and stuff like that. How much she's grown to be more like Leon in it and stuff like that. Like, you won't have as good of a bad guy as Gary Oldman in it, but you could have Michael Sheen, or a few other people who could, like Michael Sheen, or Sam Rockwell could also play a really good kind of like counter person to Matilda and stuff. Essentially, it could just be it could be just her on a kind of like, she's decided to do the last job and stuff, you know, decided to do the last job of her career, like, keeps remembering what Leon said, so that you can't always, live, this isn't the greatest life or anything like that. And she's decided that she's going to hang up and kind of try live her life. And Sam Rockwell or Michael Sheen is either the counter to her and stuff. But yeah, I think it could be done. It could be done really well. Natalie Portman's a really good really good
I was going to
continuous
jokingly
actor.
ask, who are you casting for Matilda?
Yeah, like,
There's a big benefit to this one having the distance in time and the child actress having remained an actress, which is great.
well, this is I'm really, it's really kind of like, whoo,
This
kind
one
of
casts
thing
itself all right.
yeah, because it could be, you can have flashbacks of, like, Jean Reno kind of giving her advice out, like, away from the kind of what he gave advice in Leon and stuff like that. That kind of stuff. So it could be really good, kind of interesting follow up, and kind of showing, that she hasn't ever kind of gotten over Leon and his teachings and stuff, and some of the things that he said eventually kind of may have bled through, so that she finally decides to hang up the sniper rifle and decide to live her life and stuff. So yeah, I thought it was a really good. I thought Leon deserves this. It's a very good film and stuff. Like yeah, like it's yeah. I thought about having a script where she finds a little boy, and essentially it's just like, it recaps essentially that she's now the Leon of the relationship and stuff like that, kind of thing. But that's it. It would be too samely, kind of thing. So yeah, I decided, she works for herself. She's like one of the top professionals in her field, which goes, and she decides to hang it up and live her own life. So,
Paul, I can see the commenters agree. Leon is great. Actually, Ethan says you never watched Leon. Watch Leon; it is great. Yeah, Leon's an amazing pick. Couldn't agree more. It is. It's a great pick. When I saw you had that there, I think aside from the who you're going to cast joke, it's one of those. She is she's remembered for that role as her starting point in the business, but it was such a great role that she played so well that I think if you wrote it well and you shot it well and you came up with a fresh take, like you're saying, with not just trying to replicate the first one, I think that could be an awesome follow up. And I do love the idea that it's not Leon too. It's on. Similarly, I didn't want to do Bill Murray doing Groundhog Day all over again. It's the idea of someone else.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like it's a perfect. It does open it up a little bit. Like the movie opens it up a little bit with Matilda kind of continuing on and stuff. But I wanted to show more kind of like the loneliness of it again, in the sense, because that's one of the big things about Leon is that Leon is very lonely, and it isn't until Matilda comes into his life that he feels more than just the kind of cold-hearted killer kind of instincts and stuff. And I wanted that to kind of play off with Matilda in the sense that she's continued on, and then it kind of grows on her what Leon has said to her to kind of go and live her life, and don't fill it with revenge or anything like that and stuff. So
that's truly awesome. I would watch it. I'll sign off. You get a budget of however much you want. And I think looking at the comments, people agree.
You can shoot it in the same style as Leon as well, because like very atmospheric, very kind of minimalistic as well. So it's really nice and stuff. We don't get enough. I don't think we have enough of those kind of minimalistic films anymore, kind of thing, where it's like very small area.
Agreed.
Around the story kind of thing. Not to say that that's we need every film for the next 2 years to be like that. It's just nice to have them.
No, and I think in a follow up for a film like Leon, that keeping that as the big carryover, maybe the tone and style in respect to its kind of its breadth and width, I think that would be nice. I think that could work. And you already nailed the one thing that I would have been asking, which is this movie like that relies on its antagonist as much as its protagonist. So you got to have a good, not villain, but let's say an antagonist, because I know you could write this without a straight up villain, which would be quite interesting. Maybe put it more situational with a figurehead, or there's all sorts of directions that you could really go to make that absolutely work.
Yeah, like you could like, not to ruin any kind of parts of Leon or anything like that, but you could rehash the kind of like cop kind of elements to it, and have essentially either Michael Sheen or Sam Rockwell or whoever kind of taking on that role, because it has a connotation in Matilda's life already that could play back in a certain way, but you can play with that as well in the sense of kind of turning it on its head a little bit, or as you said, you can have it as the antagonist is the last target or something.
Yeah,
and that they're just elusive rather than
Well,
so
as it turns out, my cat agrees. So sorry if you're hearing any scratching or meowing in the background. My cat wants this movie made much more than Groundhog Day. She said nothing during that. So I'm down with that. Whatever happens, Hollywood, if you are listening and you do make this, don't do a Jaws the Revenge and try and get Natalie Portman and then go, and this is Gary Oldman's son. Don't do something as on the nose and as generational as that. That would be bad. But it's the sort of thing a bad Hollywood scriptwriter could do.
Yeah, like I only want the only connection is to Leon is that it's Matilda and she's a professional. That's the only connections, that have her past. I don't want Gary Oldman's son revenge, or Sam Rockwell is like the friend of Gary Oldman or something.
Well,
so anyway,
good news for me, Paul, is not only Irish. I say it all the time now that you are in our minds because you're saying stuff that we're about to say, and vice versa. Ethan, you obviously know us pretty damn well too, because you've picked. I wonder what movie I'm going to go with next. Somebody said something about Judge Dredd 2. I wonder if that's actually my next choice. Yep, yeah, it is. Except I threw a spanner in there. I'm going with the Stallone Judge Dredd. No, I'm not. I'm only messing. Not a chance on earth.
That would be fantastic.
It would have made for great YouTube. It would have made for a
Yeah.
great YouTube.
Screw everybody's choices. I'm going for Dredd 2, Steve, like, Sylvester Stallone, and yeah, God, that'd be
No.
amazing.
What I'm going with is Dredd, a film that has been talked about. There are a few films that have been talked about hugely on this channel. Event Horizon being one of them, gets a lot of mentions. But Dredd, we've talked about in depth multiple times because I'm fanatical about the damn film. So it's no surprise that it was on the top of my head for sequels. But again, removing my bias, objectively, I think it sets itself up for a sequel. Now, again, I'm going to give you my treatment of it. I'm going to be a bit quicker this time, Paul, I promise. But essentially,
No, this as long as you want on Dredd, I'm definitely here with the Dredd stuff.
okay. Well, anybody who doesn't remember the first Dredd or hasn't seen it, you really should. It's Judge Dredd. Forget about what you think you might know about him. All you need to know about the film is Judge Dredd, lawman, into a building where there's basically a drug kingpin who he and a partner have to go and basically take down. That's the very, very short. If you know nothing about Dredd, that's what it is. And this partner is a rookie who he's evaluating for the day. Now, the other important part that good old Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone got wrong is that one of the key parts for a lot of people with Judge Dredd is, does the helmet stay on? And, and fair play to them, they dealt with that really well in Dredd by keeping it on Dredd, but actually taking it off his partner. So, there is, I've thrown up Anderson and Dredd. There's some stills from the original movie, but I'm going to use them to tell the story of the Judge Dredd 2 movie that I would make, Dredd 2. So, what happens at the end of the first movie? Spoiler alert, look away if you don't want to know. Both he and Anderson survive. They get out of the building. And my film would pretty much pick up very soon after that. Because his rookie is no longer a rookie. She's been signed off thanks to him. They're now partners, essentially. Even though he works alone, he's okay to work with her. She has some psychic abilities. That's why she's not wearing a helmet. So where my story would go is essentially him and her heading off, trying to clean up the city. Her having a little side story where she's all proud to have made it. And she has an uncle or half-brother, you choose, depending on whichever you prefer as your story mechanism, who works in the police department, and he's played by Tom Hardy. I wonder if that'll be relevant later on, as these movies tend to have. So, her and Tom Hardy are related. She's all proud. He's all proud. Him and Dredd get on fine. It's all going good. Then, as is with the first film, corruption is rife in everything in Mega City 1. Corruption was rife even within the judges' ranks in the first movie. Some corrupt judges showed up. That's extra salt in the wound for somebody like Judge Dredd, who is not into the idea of people breaking the law. It's unforgivable for law keepers to be on the payroll of drug kingpins, etc. So he finds out about this mostly because of his new partner's psychic abilities. Because she's hanging around, the halls of justice, or, Mega City 1's police plaza, essentially is what that is. She twigs it and she tells Dredd, hey, there's actually some sort of organization. There's organized crime within the judges here. So he goes, kicking down doors, as you can see, taking names, and sorting it out. So that's a good opener to the film. Unfortunately then, gang of bad judges, it's me again, a beloved character, me and Joss Whedon, a beloved character has to die. Anderson ain't going to make it, kids. Because the judges, the bad judges, realize she's the key to her hearing their thoughts, etc. If they don't get rid of her, Dredd's gonna completely wipe them out. So she doesn't make it, and that makes Dredd what can only be described as both sad and angry. So Dredd gets to make proper angry face. And anybody who's familiar with the idea of Dredd putting on angry face, that's when movies get really good. So he is like, you killed my partner who'd become my friend. This is a guy that doesn't have friends. He doesn't have pets. This is not Mr. Cuddly and Lovable for anybody who doesn't know him. And now he's always wanted justice. This isn't going to be revenge. This is just going to be very motivated ultimate justice. Justice with anger. I wonder if it matters that, Tom Hardy, being a judge himself, I'll throw a little helmet on him. I wonder if it's important that he happened to be related to Anderson, the psychic. Yeah, he's the bad guy. You knew he was the bad guy, but how come she couldn't read him? Well, it's because he's also got psychic powers, but he kept it hidden. So he was actually blocking her from reading his mind the entire time. So she never know. He's behind it all. And then you get to have the great end of movie fight where Judge Dredd gives his kind of justice timeline. And yeah, you end up with, and I've done my poster, Paul, too, you end up with Judge Dredd 2, which I subtitled, because they're always going to have to, or Dredd 2, Conviction. Because he's a man of convictions. And he's certainly going to go and get Tom Hardy's ass.
I like it.
Look, I know, and I don't want anybody who's a massive 2000 AD fan or a proper Dredd fan, don't ruin this by kind of going, oh, but. This is purely based on what the average consumer will know from Dredd, the Karl Urban movie.
See, this is the thing, because I'm a big Dredd fan. I know, like, there's a bookshelf out there that has every single case file that Dredd's involved in, kind of thing. The graphic novels are called the case files, which is great. I like the fact that you didn't go with like an already established story. You decided to go, as you said, with your own kind of one. Like, it has, because like,
there's no Rico, there's no, the Five, there's none of that stuff. There's no, none of the established stories. I'm thinking, take what people saw in the first. You're making a follow up to the movie. You're not making 2000 AD Anthology Entry 2. You're making Dredd Karl Urban 2.
Yeah, like that's like you've essentially taken the movie universe of Dredd and kind of moved it along. And the nice thing is that you're probably able to do, like, because you can make it even worse with Tom Hardy's character, is he's actually in the JDJ, which is the judges who investigate judges.
Internal affairs, yeah.
Yeah, and like that'll be an interesting kind of one. They're
I can go in depth into my script plans, but after what I did with Groundhog Day, I reined it back in, Paul, because I realized I got way too involved in my description of Groundhog Day.
But this is but that's the thing. It's great because, like, you can go into like so that it's not the street judges that are overly corrupt, because that's kind of a given in certain respects, but that even the group that's meant to be like the elite of the elite kind of investigators are also kind of corrupt would be a fantastic turn. I like it. I definitely think that I'd be very sad that Anderson dies.
I was about to say, the fact that you're letting me off with killing Wash all over again. If you're letting me, you're letting me off with killing Anderson.
Like that's because Anderson is a really in the stories and stuff like that. She's a really integral, character to the Judge Dredd storylines and stuff like that. She is like practically his only friend in the more kind of recent one. There is another informant guy who, in the earlier comics, that is seen as a good enough friend as well, which is what what's his name character is based on,
Rob Schneider's in the Bad Stallone Judge Dredd.
He's loosely based on it. See, this is the thing is, I actually really enjoyed the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd movie. It is literally that they took off the helmet is the only part that I'm like, can't. It doesn't.
Oh,
yeah. Like,
don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it for what it was, but like when I watched Dredd, I was like, that's Dredd for me. That's because I'm not as big a 2000 AD fan as you, but I was like, Dredd is my Dredd. Judge Dredd, Sylvester Stallone. It was of a time, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it. But
like I don't want them to make a sequel. I wanted to live in the articles of time and just be there. But it is a good, because it's got the Angel Gang in it. It's got the Angel Gang, which is great. That's the gang in the wasteland in the First Earth. It's also got ABC Warriors, which is like an entire other 2000 AD comic, which is also fantastic. And
also they're visually brilliant as well.
Yeah, so. like that's the thing. They do really good. The Lawmaster, the bike. They also do the Lawgiver and stuff, like all the tools and stuff like that they have. And Dredd, for a good portion of it, is also very Dredd-like. It's just more kind of what is it?
Campy.
The older comics, yeah, Dredd. So like,
Yeah.
I like, but I like Carl Urban's one. It definitely
Well,
go into kind of
I know
more of his
which I
conviction.
am the law I prefer. I
Mm.
am the law. I love you, Sylvester. I'm sorry. But don't say that you want a follow up to that because Sylvester Stallone will make a follow up to any of his movies right now if you say it loud enough. So be
Yeah,
careful.
that is true. If I say it 3 times, he'll appear and just be like, "I'll executive produce it."
Well,
Uh,
I'm gonna move on to yours in a sec. I just want to, in case there was any good comments, I want to stroke my own ego for a second. Uh, Dredd
Irish
versus
power.
Dredd, Battle of the Ages. I did call it, but just kidding. Someone give Patrick the rights to make Dredd too. Hey, thank you. Nobody wants to trust anybody with Groundhog Day, and I love you for that. I do love you for that because I wouldn't trust anybody either. What's happening? Found your channel today, and great to see some Irish movie YouTubers. Welcome, Ryan Flanagan. You're absolutely welcome, my friend. Join us anytime you want. Watch all our old stuff. Comment. We read every single one of them. And ask anybody else here. We actually just end up making friends with anybody who watches our videos. So we just need story time with Patrick. Great place to discuss movies. Yes, you're talking with smarter people than me and that guy. We're just pretty enough to put on YouTube. We're very handsome men.
You give me such a weird compliment and backhanded compliment because I'm like, I don't know which one. I prefer movies or handsome.
The silk glove and the slap. It's my mechanism. That's how you know people are good friends. I hope because it's meant in love, but also just I can't help it. I'll make you a deal when I get my TV show made. Comes to produce for any film. Yeah, you know what? I will take you up on that. Myself and Paul, we could collaborate on just about anything too. Because anywhere that anytime I've ever had a conversation with Paul where I've had a great idea, there's a point where I'm talking with Paul and he'll say something and I'll use the expletive, which I'm going to use now, and I'll just go, fuck you. You bugger. Why didn't I think of that bit? I was 99% perfect there, and then Paul will say something like, that's the bit that makes it work. Damn you. Which now, Paul, I know what your next choice is because you sent me an image. But I'm dying to hear your treatment for this one.
This is the interesting kind of part to it.
So I've just put up the poster for Tron Legacy just so because Paul's on a delay behind. He doesn't see what you all see live.
So yeah, Tron Legacy. First of all, before anyone starts talking to me about it, I know the updates already. The last update was in 2020, January 13th, which is that Garth Davis was brought on board as the possible director for the new Tron Legacy, but there has been no green light, and this has been in development for about 10 years. So like, as much as people will come at me and be just like, there is one coming.
Paul,
there's not.
Daft
not
Punk
yet.
aren't even together anymore. It's been so long since this film, so I think it's fair enough for you to say we need a sequel because it's looking very shoddy that we will ever get one. So I am with you, and I want to hear it.
Yeah, because I know Jared Leto has been brought as an executive producer or a producer onto us. So, but yeah, Tron Legacy, like they opened it so much that I think a third installment, which is kind of what they tricked out in Tron Legacy, which is more of them coming into our world. So yeah, that's the kind of, I made up a poster which
I hit it just as you said, come into our world.
I had a lot of fun with making the poster so much that I'm probably going to spend a little bit more time and effort on actually making it because I thought it'd be really good fun. But yeah. So Tron Legacy, it's essentially that it's more in our world kind of than it is in theirs, and it's essentially a kind of combination of that they do eventually start trying to invade our world, kind of thing, with their kind of technology and kind of how they work and stuff like that. And it would be an interesting kind of like, I guess, apocalyptic kind of war kind of thing, as in they can just generate soldiers, like, you know, by copying and pasting. Excuse the kind of puns, but or not the puns, but the kind of very low hanging fruit jokes.
Yeah, it's nice though.
But yeah, so like it's got a lot of effort there, because like, or a lot of kind of stuff there that we could definitely use. Olivia Wilde's character is very kind of, I guess, prevalent, as in they are the missing link between the coding kind of world and the real world. In their kind of like their code is so complex that it's DNA, which is completely interesting concept for it. So like having her and San Flynn, which is played by Gareth Hoodlud. I'm gonna produce completely like butcher his name. But yeah, like it's one of those kind of things that you could really do well with like Michael Sheen's character replaying as the end of the line bar owner kind of thing, as a power broker in the grid. Jeff Bridges, Clue could definitely come back, which would be a really kind of interesting return kind of thing. Like there's a lot of potential there for a really good complex movie, and kind of showing that the worlds can kind of collide more, and it's always seems like it's been going that direction anyway, more into the real world kind of thing. Kind of, so like, yeah, you can have that Epcom, you can replay some of the old tropes as well, that Epcom executives are kind of being, swooned by Clue, in the sense that he can give them loads of this really cool technology, and give them places of power in his new world order kind of thing, and
you've got absolutely every option under the sun. I'm like, obviously Tron Legacy, we've talked again. It's no coincidence, folks. We've talked about Tron Legacy on the channel before, because we both think it's underrated, criminally so in some cases. By no means a perfect movie, but just very much underappreciated for what it is. Now, I think the interesting thing here is the Tron Legacy ended, like you say, with the open end of they're in our world now, and that was just great. That's a great direction to go in, and you can tell just about any story from that. Like you've listed some absolute zinger stuff there, and the entire time I was like, this is maybe the time I'll get to say something where Paul's like, oh, that's maybe not a bad angle. You could also have the angle that these, let's say, if they're coming from the code world to the real world, since the the Internet of Things, the absolute prevalence of how the world is run by computer and by the internet now, and by a worldwide connection, that quite literally they could put people in positions of power. I'm not getting into voting machines or rigging or anything like that politically right now. Please, no, not on this channel. I have plenty of heavy feelings about all that. But the idea that there could be, because they're not going to necessarily be super powered people, that's the thing, but would have the super advantage of having the backup of being able to manipulate the world, manipulate social media, manipulate people. So you could have an interesting social discussion there, as well as, so that there can be a decent subplot or two running along, and a few fingers being pointed at all of us going, well, what do you really think about your interaction with technology in the world?
Yeah, like that's where like the executive kind of comms executive kind of storylines can come in and stuff like that. Like it'd be really good, interesting kind of play with, because they would obviously have to, because since the portal has been destroyed, that they would obviously have to put people in power and connect with the real world, so to kind of build a new way through and stuff like that. That it can really play in the sense that like virtual like reality, or like the virtual world, the grid is kind of like a dangerous place for us, because we don't see what's going on in the under layers of us and stuff like that. And as a coder myself, I could definitely agree that there's multiple layers of the internet that people don't realize and don't play with.
You can absolutely,
for a very good reason.
Yes, and you can do a reverse matrix on part of this. There's so many opportunities for so much interesting storytelling that this is the only one on all our list. Part of the reason I keep killing people in my options is because you're right. I don't want them making a third Groundhog. And with Dredd, the reason to kill Anderson, I do not think that Carl Urban and co would make a third one. So just make it so that they can't. Someone can reboot the story and tell their own again from scratch. This one, I actually think if you made a proper follow-up to Tron Legacy, there is room and scope to have Tron 4. This is one of those things where it could be an interesting, if done right, 5, maybe 6 film franchise that actually serves a story.
It's Yeah, definitely. Like I think it's because I think what I was thinking with this was being fair game is because Tron wasn't actually seen as a sequel, like there wasn't going to be a sequel prior
Yeah.
to it. It wasn't until someone came along with a good script and a great idea for, like, advancing the stories and stuff like that, that they decided to kind of go back and they decided to go back and do it. So I kind of see this as fair game in the sense, like, I wouldn't generally choose the second of a film
Mm.
to do this kind of sequel thing. But as I said, Tron was originally going to be a standalone one that they decided to already make a
And
sequel.
it was a Disney film experiment in a lot of ways, which thankfully it was, and it was great, and we got all sorts of fun out of it. We got Automan, the TV show, for anybody old enough to remember that, which I loved, and anything I love only ever gets a few episodes and then disappears. I also watched Street Hawk, if anybody was ever wondering.
Well, there's Tron Uprising, which is a cell shaded or CGI TV show that you can also bring in some of the characters from that and stuff like that, and like expands the storylines a little bit more, or to expand the universe, because, like, I don't, with the grids, there's like an unlimited amount of potential there, kind of thing, which you can definitely play with and then bring it into our world. That would be scary, and kind of like, because it doesn't need to be machines versus humans. It can just be, because machines versus humans has been played out a little bit. You can literally have this as another race. It's literally like an alien attack, except for it's an internal kind of weird alien attack kind of thing.
There's angle upon angle. That's why I say, like, it's got legs that, if done right and care and attention was taken, it could be good. Now, Paul, do you want to give your ego a hug? I got to stroke mine last time. There are some very, very nice comments that I'll let you read out.
Tron Legacy is an underappreciated. Yeah, no, definitely agree. I definitely, like there's plenty of stuff there that could be done with it and stuff, and it's one of the most. It's a fantastic film. When it came out for the first time, I was just like, this is fantastic. They definitely get to replay with the visuals and stuff, which is cool. Thank you about no voting machines. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Yeah. Let's not go there, kind of thing. Let's not give them.
Yeah, have you read the last one? Because you've already almost got an offer. We could get into a bidding war, myself and Ethan here. I'll give you 210 if his production company gets off the ground before mine. I want first refusal on the options here.
Bidding war, I do think that a Tron 3 will probably be made and stuff like that, but, like, it's going to take so long that, like, it's going to not involve the original characters.
Yeah,
which is big.
Yeah,
like that's like Olivia Wilde and Garth Hedlund and Jeff Bridges and stuff like that. I don't think they'll age out. I don't want to be.
No, but do you know how you can get Olivia Wilde to do it possibly right now? Disney, get on the case. Give her the directing job. That's what she's doing now. Ask her.
Yeah.
Would you like to join the Disney family full time? We might let you direct your own stuff and back the quality art house movies she's making. Paul, we're close on time, so I want to make sure that I get back to your other honorable mentions. I just gotta find where the hell I put them. I'm gonna pull up the first one first. Actually, I'll pull up both. You have Van Helsing and Elysium.
Yeah. The Elysium one's going to be harder to probably, explain.
Yeah, what you talking about, man? Come on, Elysium? Not District 9? It's the wrong Blomkamp or the wrong Matt Damon. It's the wrong whatever.
It's one of those things where, like, I was going to choose a couple of other ones as well, kind of thing. I'll go through the Van Helsing one. Van Helsing was a great story. It great world building kind of thing. The music, like, the soundtracks were really, really good. The world was interesting, kind of thing. Even the villains were great and stuff. Like, Transylvania Horses is still on like a lot of my playlists. On Spotify, kind of thing. But it opened the worlds to kind of more adventures with Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing, and I can't remember the friar's name, but he was quite funny.
Oh yeah.
Which goes, but yeah, like you can definitely express more that he breaks away from the church and stuff like that, and kind of goes hunting on his own because they gave the friar instructions to kill him and the monster because he's evil and all that kind of stuff. Like, but I don't know that he's evil. So like there's plenty of stuff there. It tied into kind of Hansel and Gretel, which had like similar kind of feel to it. The Hellboys, the or not the Quentin with Jesus, and the Del Toro,
Oh, the Benicio del Toro stuff. Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
Quentin?
the yeah, they kind of had like it's all kind of drives to that kind of like overly campy,
Well,
overly proppy.
could I throw one at you? Would you
Mhm.
even say League of Extraordinary Gentlemen almost? That kind of just vibe now. I'm only talking vibe here. And,
Yeah, no,
and I think
definitely.
we're missing films like that. Like the Van Helsing, I really enjoyed it for what it was. I really enjoyed it for what it was. I enjoyed League of Extraordinary Gentlemen for what it was.
Yeah,
And it's a harder one to defend, to be fair. But
yeah,
we could do with films like that. So I think the reason I would say it's a decent pick for an honorable mention is not necessarily to have, I don't know if Hugh Jackman would want to come back. I don't know if Kate Beckinsale would. I don't know. But if it was the idea that, look, could we start making fun films like this again?
yeah.
I'd be like, yeah,
Sadly,
why not?
Kate Beckinsale can't come back.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh
it
yeah.
would just be Hugh Jackman and the Friar, kind of thing.
She
But
she
yeah,
could be
no,
resurrected in all manner of ways.
yeah, but would you, kind of thing? Like you can even do a prequel, which is him hunting Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is the start of the film.
I can give you one reason not to do that though. Prequels, never.
I know
It's one of my
kind of
one of my few rules. Prequels are like they're hen's teeth. To get a good one is as rare as
it is. Yeah, it is difficult, kind of thing. It's just like I think the Hellboy that we got, like like Harbor was a good Hellboy. It's just that they decided that they wanted to make it R rating because at the time R ratings were popular and stuff like that. That I have a problem. Yeah, like I did. Yeah, the Keanu Reeves. Sorry, I'm just looking at the thing that's caught my eye. The Keanu Reeves.
actually, that's what we should be getting. Get your things in because we're going to run out of time, and I want to hear what the people in live chat would love to see sequels for.
Yeah, like Keanu Reeves' Constantine is really, really good. Like I do think that it could be a really good continuation, and you could link it into the dark. I wouldn't. No, sorry, that's not. Let's keep them separate. The Keanu Reeves' Constantine was a good film. It's less like the actual Constantine movies or comic books and series because he's English and all that kind of stuff. But it's still a great show. It's a great movie. It's its own universe.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I will also say that Russell Crowe's Jekyll is the one thing that I would take out of that car crash that was Tom Cruise's Mummy and say, yeah, I could see him being interesting, compelling, and just a little bit wacky and creepy in places to pull that off. It's the thing you could pull out of there.
Yeah, we had a discussion about the Mummy kind of thing and where they could have gone with the dark. Like, don't introduce your kind of big organization that is essentially bumping back, to take a Hellboy kind of mention, is bumping back against the monsters and stuff like that. Like in the first one, like hint at them existing and stuff. Don't just bring them full blown into the story. I think that's a bit bad. Because you're like Iron Man, where they only introduce Shield at the end, at the after credits kind of elements is good. It plays to a bigger world kind of thing. There's also Dracula Untold as well that could have done with the sequel well, or linking into the thing. There's plenty of those. Elysium. I'm going to go on to Elysium while people kind of get in their decisions for it. Elysium's a little bit difficult because it's essentially a self-contained story, and people didn't really like this film. I'll be honest with you. I know a lot of people didn't like the film.
I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was brilliant, but I thought it was all right.
I really enjoyed it. Like, and Neil Blankart is an absolute fantastic production designer. That I can't get enough of it. And I knew that we were talking about District 9, and I was direly going to bring aliens
just because he had
mix.
the stillborn Blomkamp alien movie that we got to see some art from.
Yeah, that was going to be I was really hoping that would come out of it, but we got Promethean to Prometheus. Yeah,
Warn me when you're going to bring up things like Promethean. Good God.
we need Constantine in the kind of thing. So there's plenty. I know that there's a list out of there, Hocus Pocus and a lot of other stuff. I know one of the other ones was Dark Fate, Terminator Dark Fate. That was an interesting one when I was looking. I was looking through what has already been discussed,
Right.
and one of them was Dark Fate Terminator. I thought that was an interesting one. I definitely explored that a little bit more.
Well, and we've got a few minutes to wrap up, so I'm going to throw over. But one thing I will say is it's given me a fun idea. I don't think for a whole episode, but let's set a little Twitter challenge to anybody out there that wants to tweet us what movie they think it would be the worst idea for them to make a sequel to. I'll go first. Forrest Gump. I can't see a really good treatment for Forrest Gump right now that wouldn't just be a car crash altogether. But you know what? Maybe somebody could make it work. Can you top that?
Deepwater Horizon.
Which was oh my god! Anything based on a real event is a bit
because you would have to do it again. Like, as in, if you wanted to make the film, if you wanted to make Deepwater Horizon 2, you would have to build a rig called Deepwater Horizon 2 and then cause a fire on it.
I can beat you at your own game. You take one of the characters in the original movie, you have them buy a boat called Deepwater Horizon, and it's actually a sweet story about their retirement. There you go. That's how you take the toxicity out of that. No one's going to watch it. That's dark.
Mine has a body count.
Exactly. So we've got a silent voice. Actually, Paul, that's for you because I see manga mentioned here. Do you know a silent voice?
Silent voice. I don't know.
Afraid you beat us on that one. True Lies could be a fun movie. True Lies. That, there's a time when that would have been a perfect sequel, because all of the main cast could have come back, including Elijah Dushku, she played the daughter.
We had that real fun conversation of that was going to be the James Bond of the American kind of spy movies, and then it didn't really work out, and then Mission Impossible came along, and then took that. Yeah.
Also, I want a sequel to Uncut Gems, where the dead protagonist son tracks down and kills his father. Oh, okay. I did actually end up watching Uncut Gems. That's, you know what? I'm mixed about that movie. I hate it when I watch a movie that's had too much hype before I've seen it, because it's impossible for anything to live up to the amount of hype, particularly that Uncut Gems had. A sequel for Citizen Kane will be pretty bad. Okay, that probably beats Forrest Gump, actually. Nothing beats Deepwater Horizon so far, though, so the challenge is out there, folks. Can any of you be more macabre creepy? I think we should just say no real-life events, just to make this safe. So, Paul, would you throw us to wrap up, and thank the good people out there in internet land?
Yeah, so if you haven't already, subscribe, ring that notification bell to get more notice. We do our live stream every Thursday. When we come out of the darker timeline, we'll probably go back to a more kind of pre-recorded and live stream kind of thing, but that's up to this discussion kind of thing. But Thursday 8 p.m. GMT time, we do a live show every week. As I said, subscribe, share us out, kind of thing. Comment down below any movies that you think should deserve sequels that we haven't mentioned before. Try to miss some of the lists that are out there. Try to sneak in a really good one, kind of thing. And tweet at us the worst idea for a sequel movie that isn't a real life event. That would be really good. Yeah. But
I know that's spot on. That's spot on. And let's see. We might even revisit it and throw a few of them out on a show at some stage. But we'll definitely be responding to you on Twitter. I'd like to welcome. I think the name was Ryan Flanagan. Thank you, new live watcher. For all you new future viewers, we love you too. Comment down below. Paul, with that, I think we should say good night and good luck to everybody. I have been Patrick. Sorry.
And I have been Paul.
And we've been Hear Us Out. And I accidentally ended that wrong. We'll see you next time, folks.
Bye.